Have you ever noticed how some people move through life as if nothing can touch them? A storm hits, plans fall apart, someone disrespects them, and yet they don't flinch. Their calm isn't arrogance. It's power. It's a quiet strength that doesn't depend on everything going right. Meanwhile, most of us can be thrown off by the smallest things. A text that feels off. A driver cutting us off in traffic. A co-worker's tone that sounds colder than usual. Suddenly, our entire mood shifts. We replay the moment in our heads. We spiral. We tell ourselves stories about what it meant, and before we know it, we've handed over our peace to something that lasted 5 seconds. It's strange, isn't it? How easily the outside world seems to control the inside one. But the truth is, it doesn't have that power unless we give it permission. Somewhere along the way, no one taught us that emotions aren't commands. They're signals. You don't have to obey every one of them. The people who stay calm under pressure, the ones who seem untouchable, they've learned a skill that most never practice. The ability to pause before reacting. That pause changes everything. Welcome back to Stoic Power Lab, your daily dose of timeless Stoic wisdom. Think about it. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, and loss, yet he reminded himself daily that his peace was his responsibility. He couldn't control the world, but he could control his response to it. That's not weakness. That's mastery. The same is true today. You can't stop the traffic, the criticism, or the random chaos life throws at you. But you can stop letting it own you. You can train your mind to stay centered when the world spins. Because real control was never about controlling others or your circumstances. It's about mastering yourself. And that's the kind of control no one can take from you. There's a kind of freedom most people never taste. It's not the freedom that comes from money, status, or success. It's the freedom that comes when the world can no longer pull you apart. The people who stay calm in chaos, who move through conflict without losing themselves, have learned a truth the Stoics built their lives around. Peace begins the moment you stop letting the outside world decide who you are on the inside. Think about how much of your mood depends on things you can't control. A message left unread, a co-worker's tone, a headline that ruins your morning before the day even starts. We hand over our state of mind to strangers, to circumstances, to noise. But emotional freedom begins when you stop letting those moments decide how you feel. When you realize that nothing outside you can truly disturb you unless you give it permission. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while facing war, betrayal, and loss, yet he wrote to himself every morning, reminding his own mind to stay still inside the storm. He knew that the battle wasn't out there, it was within. And that's the same battle we fight today. Every scroll, every argument, every small disappointment is an invitation to react. But you can choose not to. Real strength isn't about being unbothered by pretending not to care. It's about mastering your inner world so deeply that no one else can control it. That's where freedom lives. Not in changing what happens, but in changing how you meet it. The goal isn't to build walls around your emotions, it's to build stability within them. Because when your peace no longer depends on the noise outside, the world stops owning you, and you finally begin to live from a place of calm power. Most people believe they're reacting to reality, but they're not. They're reacting to the story they've told themselves about reality. Something happens, a look, a tone, a delayed message, and instantly the mind begins to fill in the blanks. It assumes, it interprets, It creates meaning out of uncertainty, and that meaning becomes the emotion we feel. You're not angry because someone frowned at you. You're angry because you decided that frown meant judgment, disrespect, or rejection. The event is neutral. The story you attach to it is not. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about those things." Modern science now agrees. Your brain doesn't respond to truth. It responds to perception. What you feel is not the world itself, it's your version of it. Imagine you're at the gym, someone glances your way and frowns. Within seconds, your thoughts start spinning. Are they judging me? Do I look foolish? Am I doing something wrong? Yet, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they weren't even looking at you. But your mind has already built a story, and your emotions are reacting to that story as if it were fact. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's what happens every time you let an unexamined thought dictate your mood. You're not reacting to the moment, you're reacting to your own mental projection. The question is, how often has your mind made you suffer for something that never even happened? The Stoic path begins with seeing this clearly. Events are outside of you, but meaning is within you. The more you learn to question that meaning, the freer you become. Because peace doesn't come from controlling what happens, it comes from mastering how you interpret it. Every one of us looks at the world through a lens, but that lens isn't clear. It's been scratched, cracked, and clouded by everything we've lived through. The heartbreaks we never healed from, the criticism that cut too deep, the rejections that made us doubt our worth. Those experiences don't disappear. They stay, shaping how we see everything that comes after. When you carry old pain that was never examined, every new moment becomes a reflection of it. A simple comment starts to sound like an attack. Silence feels like rejection. Neutral faces look like judgment. The world hasn't changed, you have. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing your past projected onto it. Imagine walking around with fogged glasses and never realizing you could take them off. That's how most people live, confusing distorted perception with truth. The Stoics, and later philosophers like Socrates, warned about this. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." He wasn't asking us to analyze endlessly. He was reminding us to look inward, to clean the lens through which we experience everything. Because until you do, you'll stay trapped in a loop of reaction. You'll keep thinking the problem is out there, when in truth, it's the way you're seeing. Every time you pause and ask yourself, what part of me is coloring this moment, you take back a little power. You stop blaming the world for the pain you haven't processed. You start separating what is happening from what your wounds are whispering. That's where growth begins. In that moment of clarity where you finally see that perception isn't passive. It's a choice. And the clearer your lens becomes, the calmer your life will feel. Every reaction you've ever had, every time you snapped, froze, or felt overwhelmed, started long before the moment itself. It began with an old mental program quietly running in the background. Your mind saw something, labeled it, and responded before you even realized it was happening. That's what most people call instinct. But instinct isn't always wisdom. It's often a habit disguised as truth. Here's the thing. Real freedom doesn't come from controlling what happens to you. It comes from recognizing that small space between what happens and how you respond. In that space lies your power. The Stoics knew it. Modern psychology confirms it. You can't always stop the first wave of emotion, but you can decide whether to ride it or let it crash. Aristotle once said, "Anyone can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right reason and in the right way, that is not easy." That quote holds the essence of emotional mastery. It's not suppression, it's awareness. It's the ability to pause, even for a breath, and ask yourself, is this really about them, or is it about something inside me? That question interrupts the pattern. It shifts you from being a puppet of reaction to a conscious observer of your own mind. The pause doesn't make you weak, it makes you deliberate. Think of it like this: the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who doesn't need to prove anything, the one who has learned to pause before swinging back. Every moment you resist that instant impulse, you strengthen the muscle of self-command. That's what the Stoics called mastery, the quiet, unshakable control that no storm can steal. Plato once said that reality is but a shadow of the truth, and the older you get, the more you realize how right he was. Most of what we react to isn't the world itself, it's our mind's projection of it. Someone gives you a strange look, and suddenly your brain writes an entire story about judgment or rejection. A message gets left on read, and within seconds you've created a narrative of being ignored or forgotten. None of it is reality. It's perception pretending to be truth. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology did. They knew that peace doesn't come from controlling life, it comes from seeing it clearly. The calm person isn't cold or detached. They're simply not trapped in the fog of misinterpretation. They've trained their mind to pause, to observe, to ask, is this real, or is this my story about what's happening? That pause is where clarity begins. It's the split second where you stop being a prisoner of emotion and become the author of your response. Think about the people you admire most. They move through chaos without being consumed by it. They listen before they react. They choose words carefully. That kind of composure doesn't come from luck. It's the product of awareness built over time. Every pause strengthens the muscle of emotional control. Every moment of clarity adds another layer of peace. So the next time something shakes you, before you fire back or spiral inward, ask yourself one question: what inside me is letting this affect me? Because the answer to that question is where your real freedom lives. When you learn to see beyond the shadow, the world doesn't change, but the way you experience it does. And that shift from confusion to clarity is where true strength begins. Asterisk, if you found value in this video, don't just keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's walking their own path towards strength, clarity, and peace. From the moment you were old enough to understand words, the world began training you, not to think, not to see, but to react. You were taught that your worth depends on what others think of you, that fitting in matters more than being at peace, that applause means success and silence means failure. And without even noticing, you began to measure your value in likes, comments, and approval. But here's the truth most people never realize. This conditioning wasn't an accident. It was by design. Look around. Every system you grew up in rewards reactivity. Schools teach you to chase grades, not wisdom. Media feeds you outrage to keep you watching. Social platforms amplify the loudest voices, not the wisest ones. The algorithms don't care about your peace of mind, they care about your attention. Outrage, envy, comparison, those emotions keep you scrolling. Every time you get angry or insecure, the system wins. Because the more reactive you are, the easier you are to control. Marcus Aurelius saw this long before the internet existed. He wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." Yet today, we chase those opinions like they define us. We let strangers dictate our self-worth, marketers tell us what's missing, and advertisements whisper that we are not enough until we buy, click, or perform. Entire industries profit from your insecurity. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And isn't that what's happening now? The constant distraction, the endless noise, the emotional bait, all of it keeps you from sitting quietly with yourself. Because stillness forces you to confront what's real. But that confrontation is where your freedom begins. The moment you stop chasing validation, you start reclaiming power. The moment you stop reacting, you start remembering who you are beneath the noise. There's a kind of power that toxic people understand very well. It's not strength or intelligence, it's emotional leverage. The moment they learn what triggers you, they own you. They know which words will ignite anger, which tone will spark fear, which silence will make you chase their approval. It's like you're walking around with a control panel strapped to your chest, and every button is labeled anger, jealousy, guilt, or insecurity. The more reactive you are, the easier it is for others to push those buttons and control your peace. Plato once said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." But here's the question most people never ask: who actually has power over you? Every time you lose yourself in an argument, every time you spiral because of someone else's opinion, you hand them the remote to your inner world. You make their behavior the gatekeeper of your calm. That's not strength, it's dependency disguised as emotion. True freedom begins when you unplug the control panel, when someone tries to provoke you and you simply don't react. Not because you're indifferent, but because you're disciplined. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the decision to stop giving strangers, critics, or manipulators free rent in your head. You no longer need to prove your worth or defend your peace. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." When you truly know who you are, insults lose their power, manipulation loses its grip, and chaos loses its pull. You become steady, like a rock in the middle of a storm. People may still try to press your buttons, but there's nothing left to press. Because your peace is no longer up for negotiation. It belongs to you. And once you claim it, no one can take it away. The modern world doesn't want you calm. It wants you reactive, distracted, always chasing the next thing. Because when you're reactive, you're predictable. And when you're predictable, you're profitable. Outrage sells. Comparison keeps you scrolling. Fear keeps you buying. Entire systems are designed to feed on your attention, and the more chaotic your inner world becomes, the easier it is for them to keep you hooked. But here's the secret. The Stoics understood centuries ago, calmness breaks the system. A Stoic doesn't stop caring. They just learn to care wisely. Real detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's choosing where to give your energy instead of letting everything take it from you. The ancient Stoics called this apatheia, a state of inner calm untouched by chaos. Imagine yourself like a strong tree in the wind. The wind howls, branches bend, but your roots hold steady. The world moves around you, not through you. That's what peace feels like. Not silence, but steadiness. Not withdrawal, but mastery. Step 1 to building that kind of strength is simple but powerful. Observe, don't absorb. When you walk into a tense room, Notice the energy, but don't let it become yours. When someone throws anger your way, see it for what it is, a storm passing by, and let it go. Because every time you refuse to absorb the chaos, you strengthen your boundaries. You teach your nervous system that peace is your default state. The modern world rewards those who react, but life rewards those who remain composed. The calmer you become, the less control the world has over you. And that's when real freedom begins, not when the noise stops, but when it can no longer reach you. Silence is a kind of power most people never learn to use. We're conditioned to fill every gap, defend every opinion, fight every battle. But true mastery begins when you learn to hold the pause. When someone throws anger your way and you don't react. When you're misunderstood and you don't rush to explain. When you choose stillness over noise, you take back control. Because silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom in motion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's what silence gives you, the power to revoke the world's influence over your peace. Every argument, every drama, every burst of chaos feeds on attention. When you stop feeding it, it starves. You don't win by shouting louder. You win by refusing to play. Aristotle said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. But the Stoic doesn't stay silent for approval. They stay silent for strength. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. In a world that rewards outrage and impulsive reaction, restraint is rebellion. Socrates believed that self-control is the foundation of wisdom. He was right. The person who can stay calm when provoked, centered when challenged, and grounded when attacked, owns themselves completely. That kind of composure can't be faked. It's built moment by moment, pause by pause. So the next time you're tempted to react, don't. Let silence do the talking. Because in that stillness, you'll find something rare. Your unshakable power. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes when you finally stop letting every little thing get to you. People think being unbothered means not caring, but it's the opposite. It's maturity. It's knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Not every conflict needs your voice. Not every insult needs your attention. The moment you stop reacting to every spark, life stops feeling like a fire you have to constantly put out. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the truth at the heart of inner freedom. The world will always test you. People will misunderstand you. Circumstances will shift. But when your peace no longer depends on them, you become untouchable. It's not coldness. It's clarity. You're no longer tossed around by every emotional wave. You've learned how to sail through them. Think about it. How many times have you lost hours, maybe days, replaying something that didn't deserve a second of your peace? Emotional stillness isn't suppression, it's strength. It's learning to respond from wisdom, not impulse. It's clarity in the middle of chaos, grace in the middle of conflict. When you reach that place, life becomes lighter. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop chasing control over what's outside and start mastering what's within. And that's where true freedom begins, not when everything is calm, but when you are. From the moment you were a child, you were taught how to react. Stress meant panic. Criticism meant defense. Failure meant shame. Those emotional programs became automatic, like code written into your nervous system. And without realizing it, you've been running those same scripts your entire life. But here's the truth. You can rewrite the code. You can train your mind to respond differently, to choose presence over panic, calm over chaos. It starts in small moments. The next time something triggers you, pause. Take a breath. Instead of letting the old pattern take over, ask yourself, what if I don't respond the way I always do? That one conscious choice, just one, begins to carve a new path in your brain. Neuroscience proves this. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, you strengthen a new neural connection. Each small act of control rewires the system that once controlled you. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because when you do, you can no longer hide behind excuses. You have to face your patterns, your shadows, your fears, and own them. That's where transformation begins." Plato called it the first and greatest victory, to conquer yourself. That victory doesn't happen in one grand moment. It happens in quiet repetition. Every time you stay calm when you used to explode. Every time you remain present when your mind wants to run. You're proving to yourself that peace isn't something you find, it's something you build. One conscious reaction at a time. Asterisk, if this message resonated with you, hit like, subscribe to Stoic Power Lab, and share it with someone who's ready to take back their mornings and master their mind. Real power doesn't come from shouting back. It comes from staying calm when someone tries to pull you into their chaos. Most people think strength is about domination, proving a point, or winning an argument. But true strength is quieter. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to fight to be felt. When someone throws an insult at you, you have two choices: react and give them control, or respond with calm and keep your peace. Try it. Someone says, "You're too quiet." You smile and say, "I like my peace." They say, "You don't care, do you?" You reply, "Not about things that don't matter." They accuse, "You think you're better than everyone else." You answer, "I just try to be better than who I was yesterday." That's not weakness, that's mastery. You've disarmed them without lifting a finger. Because while they were trying to start a battle, you refused to join the war. Training your emotions is like training your body. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you're strengthening a muscle that most people never develop. The Stoics knew this well. The goal is not to suppress emotion, but to channel it into purpose. When you stop wasting energy on defending yourself, you free that energy to build yourself. The moment you stop caring about meaningless noise, you create space to care deeply about what actually matters. Growth, purpose, peace, creation. That's where your power belongs. Not in reaction, but in direction. Because in the end, your calm is not a sign that you've stopped fighting. It's proof that you've already won. Stillness isn't the absence of motion, it's the mastery of it. It's what happens when awareness, discipline, and presence finally align. Through practice, you begin to move from survival to sovereignty. You stop living at the mercy of emotion and start living from a place of grounded control. Every pause, every moment of reflection, every act of restraint builds something inside you that can't be shaken. The Stoics never taught us to suppress emotion. They taught us to master it, to feel fully, but not be ruled by what we feel, to respond with clarity, not impulse. Because the goal of Stoicism was never numbness, it was freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when you no longer need to react to everything around you to prove you exist. Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "You have power over your mind. not outside events. That's not a line about denial, it's a declaration of power. The moment you stop trying to control the world and start mastering yourself, you step into real strength. Calm becomes your superpower. It roots you. It centers you. It makes you unshakable in a world built on noise. So remember this, when you stop letting the world control your reactions, you don't grow colder, you grow clearer, calmer, stronger. You stop surviving life and start mastering it. And as you walk forward on your own quiet path, stay grounded, stay aware, and keep walking with peace. Because stillness isn't the end of motion. It's the beginning of true power. Asterisk, if this video helped you, let it echo. Like, share, subscribe for more insights. And keep building your inner power.